Hello class, this is Biochemistry Module 18. So our main lesson here is chemical properties. Acrolein test, of course, atong positive result would be acrid irritating odor. Ano acrid? Amo na siya ang baho sang panos na oil. And then to do this acrolein test, we have heating with potassium bisulfate. And test with osmotic acid, result is black coloration. Reaction with alkylate pigment, positive result, red coloration. And with alkali, we have potassium hydroxide and sodium hydroxide. What is saponification? Saponification is mag-ubra sang habon, no? Is an organic chemical reaction that utilizes an alkali to cleave an ester into a carboxylic acid, salt, and alcohol. So the reaction of glycerides and alkali catalyze hydrolysis of fats and fixed oils. So potassium hydroxide, no, or ang aton nga KOH, K for the potassium, OH is for the hydroxide, and sodium hydroxide NaOH are the two most common alkalis used with saponification to produce soap products. So, kung mabalanta na siya kung diin ginagamit si potassium, diin ginagamit si sodium. There are two primary use for this reaction. Is during the production of soap products. There are two types of soap. We have soft soap and hard soap. Kung soft soap class, it's very soft in our skin. So usually mga hand washes na mga body wash, mga Dove, mga soap na ginagamit sa lawas. So these are made by reacting potassium hydroxide as the alkali and triolene. So the chemical name is potassium olate. So amo na mga hand soap, body wash, soaps para sa lawas, where a hard soap is made by reacting to sodium hydroxide as the alkali and tristin. So the chemical name of hard soap is sodium stearate. So kung soft soap, potassium. Kung hard soap, sodium. Okay? Antioxidants. Antioxidants used to control and reduce lipid peroxidation, both by humans and their activities and in nature. So, naturally occurring vitamin C and E ang aton mga antioxidants, and synthetically prepared ang mga BHA, BHT, no? So, what is BHA? Butylated hydroxyanisole. Butylated hydroxyanisole, sorry. And we have BHT is butylated toluene. So the BHA and the BHT are antioxidants used as food additives. We have hydrogenation. Hydrogenation is the process where the liquid oil produces semi-solid fats that are extensively used as cooking oil and shortening. So, polymerization of linolenic fatty acid used in the conversion of vegetable oil to fat, and used in the manufacture of margarine, fixed oils, and may be hydrogenated by passing hydrogen in the presence of nickel and palladium through oil heated to 160 degrees to 200 degrees Celsius. We have sulfonation, or sulfation, no other name. So, obtained by reacting sulfuric acid. Tandaan, basta may Tandaan when you use sulfonation or sulfation, we are using sulfuric acid. And with oil, keeping the temperature down by chilling, and the oil is then washed and neutralized. If the oil contains an olefinic linkage, the acid molecules add into double bond. We have chemical constants, identification of fats and fixed oils, saponification number. So the number of milligrams of alkali required to neutralize the fatty acids and saponify the esters contained in 1 gram of the substance. So the significance of the saponification number, it means detecting the presence of adulterants. What is adulterants? Class, when you are in a you're in a manufacturing setting, no, and you're working with a manufacturer. For example, you're making you're making a medicine or a drug, no, and adulterants is bawal, no. For example, you're making a drug for kids or X, example, and there is an active ingredient. Anong active ingredient? Mga ang bulong mismo, no, ang drug mismo. And adulterants could be anything, like just an oil, just mga unwanted ni siya, class, para lang magdamo ang medicine. Pero dapat wala na siya. Okay? And kung dapat ipangitaon ng adulterants to make our medicine or our product more effective, wala ta ginalango-lango ang aton nga mga consumers, and we are not making some mistakes when it comes to nutritional facts, no? For example, adulterants could be also talc, no, nga excessive na siya, no? Those are kung ma-identify ta ang saponification numbers ng isa ka bagay and hindi siya magbangga sa table, that means there is something wrong with the product. Okay? Ano pa gid? Saponification, right? For example, you're making a Dove, no? You're in the manufacture of Dove. And that Dove, that soap, no, may mga ingredients na siya. So, you need to detect the saponification number. Kung hindi pa siya mag-saponify sa amo na nga number, kaya dapat, for example, it should be saponified under 130, no, number niya. And it's like, nag-saponify siya around 140 ang number. So, there's something wrong with the Dove nga ginubra nyo as a batch, no? Basi may nagkulang, basi may nagsubra, or basi may nagduga nga something hindi ta dapat unwanted sa amo na nga produkto. That is your adulterants. So, means of detecting fresh fixed oils, that is also your saponification number, and means of detecting palmitic and stearic glycerides. We have acid number, the number of milligrams of potassium required to neutralize the fatty acids in 1 gram of fat, or the substance which indicates the amount of free fatty acid present in the oil. So the higher the acid value, the more rancid the fixed oil is. So anong rancid? Panos man Japon, ha? And the significance of this, no, used to determine the efficiency, freshness of fixed oil or the fat. We have Polinsky number. Polinsky number is the number of milliliters or ml of 0.n or normality of potassium hydroxide required to neutralize the insoluble fatty acids. Those which are not volatile with steam distillation from 5 gram of fat. We have Reichert Meisel number. This is the amount of 0.1 N alkali required to neutralize the volatile fatty acid distilled from 5 grams of fat. So, saponification number refers to all fatty acid molecules capable of being saponified by an alkali, while Reichert Meisel number refers only to volatile fatty acids obtained by saponification, acidification, and distillation. Butter is the only fat which gives a high Reichert-Meisel number. So butter ha. Acetyl number. Acetyl number, this represents the number of milligrams of potassium hydroxide necessary to neutralize the acetic acid liberated from the hydrolysis of 1 gram of acetylated fat. So we have procedure. First, fat is acetylated by treating with acetic anhydride and is subsequently saponified with potassium hydroxide. So the fatty acid are liberated by sulfuric acid, and the acetic acid is separated from the insoluble fatty acid and is titrated with the standard alkali solution. Ang titration sa inyo ng laboratory, sa inyong laboratory apparatus, now may ara kita na rubber, kag may ara makita nga glass. That is how you do your titration, no? Ang aton nga amo na balaklaso. Tapos may ari na di nga daw rubber kung basic. Tapos kung acidic, glass na di siya. Na. This is acidic. So we have iodine number, the number of grams of iodine absorbed under prescribed conditions by 100 gram of fat or the substance. So since the significance indicates the degree of unsaturated, the higher the iodine value, the more unsaturated the fixed oils. Meaning, the higher the iodine value, the more nga damo double bonds ang aton nga fixed oils. Serve as means of classifying fixed oils. So we have the differences between fixed oils and volatile oil. No? Kung ang fixed oils cannot be distilled, however si volatile pwede. In glyceryl ester of fatty acid, glyceryl spot may ara. Kung volatile oil varies in composition. Can be saponified with alkalis. Fixed fat, yes. Volatile, no. Greasy spot. Greasy spot is when you put a paper, this is your paper, and you put the fixed oil or the volatile oil, and then you removed it. Afterwards, there will be a mawet ang mabasa ang aton nga papel. So in fixed oils or fat, yes, and in volatile oil, no. We have odor, bland ang aton fixed oil, meaning ang aton volatile characteristic odor siya. And specific gravity, lighter. Some are ang volatile oil, it varies. Some are lighter, some are heavier. Rancidity, yes. Garancid ang aton fixed oil or fat. However, in our volatile oil, terenbentinate. So, lipid metabolism entails the oxidation of fatty acids to either generate energy or synthesize new lipid from smaller constituent molecules. Lipid metabolism is associated with carbohydrate metabolism as product of glucose and can be converted into lipid. And lipid metabolism begins in the intestine, where ingested triglycerides are broken down into smaller chain fatty acid and subsequently into monoglyceride molecule by pancreatic lipases, meaning an enzyme na siya that breaks down fat after they are emulsified by bile salt. So when food reaches the small intestine in the form of chyme, no, magkaon ka mo, ang tanan yung nga ginkaon, compress ina, and that form as our chyme. A digestive hormone called cholecystokinin or CCK is released by intestinal cells in the intestinal mucosa. The CCK then stimulates the release of pancreatic lipase from the pancreas and then stimulate the contraction of gallbladder to release stored bile salt into the intestine. The CCK also travels to the brain where it can act as hunger suppressant. So, meaning, kung tapos ka nakaon, makahambal na si CCK mo, nga tama na nangakaon. Unless may ara ka mo nga problem, no? For example, you have food-related problem that you nga food-related problem that also could can destroy this, no? And together, the pancreatic lipases and bile salt breaks down triglyceride into free fatty acids. So, si CCK nyo ang mahambal nga tama na nga kaon. Unless may ara ka mo problem, nag-stress eating ka mo, then your CCK is never mind. And then together, the pancreatic lipase, bile salts, fatty acid. These fatty acids can be transported across the intestinal membrane. However, once they cross the membrane, they are recombined to again form triglyceride molecules. Within the intestinal cell, these triglycerides are packed along with cholesterol molecule in the phospholipid vehicles called chylomicrons. Chylo. Then the chylomicrons enable fats and the cholesterol to move within the aqueous environment of the lymphatic and circulatory system. Chylomicrons leave enterocytes by exocytosis and enter the lymphatic system via lacteals in the villi of the intestine. From the lymphatic system, the chylomicrons are transported to the circulatory system. Once the circulation, they can either go to the liver to be stored in fat cells and then comprise adipose fat tissue or adipose tissue found throughout the body. So, kung damo ka mo fat, no, nga na-store sa inyo lawas, amo na nga i-store na siya sa liver. So, kung madamo ka mo da nga ginakaon nga fatty substances, you could have fatty liver. So, amo na nga may hambal kita nga ay fatty liver na siya, no? Kay because of you took a lot of lipid, especially gataas ang aton fatty liver if you're always eating pork. Also cakes, no? Paano ka mo mag-obra cakes? Damo-damo na siya class, itlog, damo-damo na siya oil. So, kung tanawon nyo sa YouTube, mag-ubra ka mo cakes, tanawon nyo ang eggs, that could also be the source of your fatty liver. And lipolysis. Lipolysis meaning, fat breakdown. Lipolysis is lipo meaning fat, lysis is breaking down. To obtain energy from fat, triglyceride must be broken down by hydrolysis into their two principal components, fatty acids and glycerol. This process called lipolysis takes place in the cytoplasm. The resulting fatty acids are oxidized by beta oxidation into acetyl-CoA, which is used in the Krebs cycle. So I will not give you this kind of problem about the Krebs cycle because that will really make you medyo confusing siya. So the glycerol about the Krebs cycle generally is citric acid pathway, and then that makes up paano ta gina process ang aton nga mga carbohydrates and how to make our ATPs, no? And the glycerol that is released from triglyceride after lipolysis directly enters the glycolysis pathway as DHAP. Because one triglyceride molecules yield 3 fatty acid molecules with as much as 16 or more carbons in each one. Fat molecules yield more energy than carbohydrates and are an important source of energy for the human body. Triglyceride yield more than twice the energy per unit mass when compared to carbohydrates and protein. Pero ang unahon nga i-breakdown sa lawas ta is always the carbohydrates and protein because dasig siya ma-disperse ng carbohydrates and protein. However, if our triglyceride, medyo dugay siya ma-breakdown. That is why unahon any si carbs and protein. Therefore, when the glucose level are low, triglyceride can be converted into acetyl-CoA molecules and used to generate ATP through aerobic respiration. So, if class gapagutom ka mo, and you haven't eaten a day, and you're still amazed by your body nga abuhi ka pa, because of triglycerides, because of the lipid that you are, because of your liver, no, aga-release sang gina-release niya ang gin-store nyo nga fat sa iya. Okay? So, this is the pathway of ketogenesis. So, if excessive ang CoA, ang acetyl-CoA, and is created from the oxidation of fatty acid in the Krebs cycle is overloaded and cannot handle it, the acetyl-CoA is diverted to create ketone bodies. So, these ketone bodies can serve as fuel source if the glucose level are too low in the body. Again, wala ka mo kakaon, so glucose level niyo are low. So, ang aton nga lawas or ang aton nga liver, or ang aton lawas would make up, no, para magtaas-taas ang aton nga glucose. And that's where glucogenesis enter. So, ketones serve as fuel in times of prolonged starvation or when the patient suffered from uncontrolled diabetes and cannot utilize most of the circulating glucose. In both cases, fat stores are liberated to generate energy through the Krebs cycle and will generate ketone bodies when too much acetyl-CoA is accumulated. And this ketone synthesis reaction, acetyl-CoA is converted into hydroxyl methyl glutaryl-CoA, or ang aton yung short term for that is HMG-CoA. So, the HMG-CoA is a precursor cholesterol and is an intermediate that is subsequently converted into beta-hydroxylbutyrate and the primary ketone body in the blood. So, excessive acetyl-CoA is diverted from the Krebs cycle and to the ketogenesis pathway. This reaction occurs in the mitochondria of liver cells. The result is the production of beta-hydroxylbutyrate and the primary ketone found in the blood. So, ketones oxidize to produce energy from the brain. Beta-hydroxylbutyrate is oxidized to acetyl-CoA, to acetoacetate, and NADH is released. As SH-CoA molecule is added to acetoacetate, forming acetyl-CoA, the carbon within the acetyl-CoA is not bonded to the CoA, then detaches, splitting the molecule in two, and the carbon then attaches to another free SH-CoA, resulting in the 2-acetyl-CoA molecule. This acetyl-CoA molecule are then processed to the Krebs cycle to generate energy. When the glucose is limited, ketone bodies can be oxidized to produce acetyl-CoA to be used in the Krebs cycle to generate energy. We have lipogenesis. No? Lipogenesis is when the glucose level are plentiful, meaning to the roof, ang glucose nyo. And the excess acetyl-CoA generated by the glycolysis can be converted into fatty acids, triglyceride, cholesterol, steroids, and bile salts. This process is called lipogenesis. You're making, when you say genesis, ano galing sa Bible? Diba? New, no? And the lipo is lipids natin, created lipids, fat from the acetyl-CoA and takes place in the cytoplasm of adipose and hepatocytes. When you eat more glucose and carbohydrates than your body needs, your system uses acetyl-CoA to turn the excess into fat. Although these are several metabolic sources of acetyl-CoA, it is most commonly derived from glycolysis. Acetyl-CoA available is significant because it initiates lipogenesis. Lipogenesis begins with acetyl-CoA and advances by the subsequent addition of 2 carbon atoms from another acetyl-CoA. This process is repeated until fatty acids are the appropriate length. Because this is a bond-creating anabolic process, ATP is consumed. However, the creation of triglyceride and lipids is an efficient way of storing the energy available in carbohydrates. So, triglyceride and lipids high energy molecule are stored in adipose tissue until they are needed. Again, if you have questions, please do it on next face-to-face, no? Thank you and have a good day.